everybody. Welcome to 2026 and our first episode of 2026. Friday evening, January 2nd. I'm Julia, your host for Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I have lots of news to get to, like normal. Been a rainy day here in North Mississippi where I'm located. How do you like the background? Pretty sweet. Trying to keep with the theme of the cafe. So I hope everybody had a good New Year's and a Merry Christmas. Hope you didn't get too trashed. I know I had to work, so couldn't get too trashed. But let's get right on to the news. Like I said, have lots of stories to get to this evening. Also, one little bit of news. Starting each week, the podcast will be Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. So same time, Thursday nights. Going to make sure that I'm consistent, a lot more consistent. Thank you so much for indulging with me. Work had a lot to do with it, but now that I'm on a steady schedule and I have actually Thursdays and Friday nights off, I could go ahead and get it done Thursday evening at 7 p.m. So we'll see you there. See you next week on Thursday. So let's get to the news. And of course, I have to mess up as soon as I start. There we go. That's not what I wanted at first. How about this one first? Feds pause California's plan to reissue 17,000 revoked CDLs held by immigrant drivers. I hate when I mess up right out of the gate and then I get rattled the rest of the doggone show. So maybe the rest of the show will be all right. According to the article, the federal government has instructed California to pause its plans to reissue 17,000 commercial driver's licenses held by immigrant truck drivers. This story came out on the 22nd, so the previous week, the California DMV announced plans to reissue CDLs to immigrant drivers previously given a cancellation notice amidst the government crackdown on CDL regulations. California planned to reissue these licenses with updated, more accurate expiration dates on December 16th. Now, information indicating that the federal government instructed California to pause those plans has been reported by the local news. As of the 22nd, no statements regarding the situation have been released by USDOT, FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or Secretary Transportation Duffy, or any other transportation-related agency within the federal government. So says this article. Quote, we are in compliance with federal regulations and state law. This delay by the federal government not only hurts our trucking industry, yeah, right, but it also leaves eligible drivers in the cold without any resolution during the holiday season, said the Deputy Director of the Office of Public Affairs. We are hopeful the federal government will do the right thing and allow California to reissue these commercial driver's licenses promptly. Commercial drivers are an important part of our economy, blah, 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 blah. If you wouldn't have illegal people getting CDLs, you wouldn't have this problem. My personal opinion. There's absolutely no legitimate reason, she states, why the federal government stepped in and said hold off, and it's really disappointing for folks right before the holiday who thought their license issues were going to be fixed, and now it's kind of left in the world of the unknown, said the Shane Gussman, legislative director for the Teamsters of California. So even the Teamsters were weighing in in this article. And in this story, Department of Homeland Security confirms that Washington State ignored ICE detainer for driver in a fatal crash. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has confirmed that Washington State ignored U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainer for a truck driver involved in a fatal crash earlier in the month of December. Let's just call him Kamal, failed to brake in the moments before a fatal crash in Washington back December 11th, causing him to strike one car, killing 29-year-old Robert Pearson. Investigation shows he also falsified logbooks leading up to the crash. You're supposed to be on an ELD. What are you doing on paper? Or did you go ahead and falsify the ELD, which is hard to do. You're supposed to be through a third party. After the crash, he was taken into custody and held on a $100,000 bond. A short time later, an ICE detainer was issued to ensure that he remained in jail. He was then released on the 14th, despite the detainer by ICE. Initially, it was unclear if he was released while under an ICE detainer, but ICE and DHS have since confirmed that detainer was ignored. Washington is a sanctuary state, of course. Quote, "This demented and dangerous sanctuary policies have deadly consequences," said Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. Robert Pearson would still be alive today if the Biden administration hadn't released this illegal alien into our country. How many more Americans have to be killed before Democrat politicians start to put the public safety ahead of politics? Good question. He was found entering the country illegally in 2023 through Arizona and was released captured and released by the Biden administration. So there you go. And then jumped into a truck, drove a truck, and then killed somebody. And now he's released again. There you go. And in other news, the truck stop chain Love's acquires 3 freight factoring companies. Travel center operator Love's announced the acquisition of 3 freight factoring companies to bolster its financial services arm. Now they're in insurance, they're in service maintenance, now they're in factoring. And what a factoring company is they're the middlemen between the broker and an owner operator, that they will advance you payment of, because I used to have my own authority, they will advance you payment of the load, and then they will wait, the factoring company will wait the 30, 60, 90 days to get paid for the load from the broker or, the company. So back to the article. On December 22nd, Love's Financial announced the acquisition of Oklahoma-based TBS factoring service, Chicago, Illinois-based St. John Capital, and Charlotte, North Carolina-based Financial Career Services, which all serve small to mid-sized trucking fleets. This acquisition closed on December 19th, and financial terms were not disclosed. Love says that 3,400 customers using the acquired freight factoring companies will not experience any delay or disruption of their funding. Quote, "This will also gain access to additional services at Love's nationwide network of travel stops, including fuel discounts, access to a no-fee credit line, Love's Express billing card program," the company said. Quote, "Love's is committed to growing strategically as a trusted partner to meet professional drivers, owner-operators, and fleets where they are. Providing fast and reliable freight factoring services is an important part of that vision." No, they're just getting their fingers into everything. As far as, again, this is all my opinion. My show, I can be opinionated. Anyway, they're excited to welcome their new customers and part of their financial team. Yeah, it's more money in their pocket. So anyway, on to the next. U.S. DOT says it's still unacceptable for truck drivers to use wacky tobacco. For us old schoolers, marijuana, amid White House push for rescheduling. You cannot use CBD. I don't care what any of you think. CBD, you're not going to get all the THC out of it. Period. You cannot get use anything, no oil, no gummies, nothing with nothing CBD at all, because you will get popped on a drug screen. Trust me. Drivers are getting popped left and right. We have the problem with the, illegals. Now everybody's, needing to work and everything a lot harder. There should be more freight out there now. And just can't be using, I don't care if you got aches and pains, take Tylenol, arthritis, that's what I do. Ibuprofen, over-the-counter stuff. Do not be taking CBD when you're in a truck. The U.S. Department of Transportation issued a notice clarifying drug testing policies for safety-sensitive workers amid a federal push to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Well, compared to fentanyl or coke or, the white powder or, the other powders and this kind of thing. Well, yeah, it's less dangerous. We've known that for years, any of us old hippies. In December, executive order by President Trump directed agencies to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug of Controlled Substances Act. In response to the executive order, U.S. DOT Office of Drug and Alcohol Policy Compliance issued a statement to clarify how the executive order will impact drug testing practices for safety-sensitive workers, train operators, truck driving, air transportation, and school bus drivers. Officials emphasized that there will be no change to current drug testing policies. You still can get popped for if you're using marijuana. It is not legalized by the federal government. Don't care what state you live in. And this will take place until further notice, though U.S. DOT will continue to monitor the process and update the industry as appropriate. First, they say marijuana is still a Scheduled 1 drug under the Commercial Safety Administration until any rescheduling is completely done with. It remains unacceptable for any safety-sensitive employee subject to drug testing under the Department of Transportation regulations to use marijuana. Second, until the rescheduling process is complete, Department of Transportation drug testing process and regulations will not change. Transportation employees in safety-sensitive positions will still be subject to testing for marijuana. Furthermore, the department's guidance on medical and recreational marijuana and CBD are still in effect. We want to assure the traveling public that our transportation system is the safest it can possibly be, says the DOT. But not with all the accidents that are going on. Just saying. Speaking of which, a person who crashed into a flatbed semi in a suicide attempt shot her family prior to a fatal crash. And hold on one second. I flubbed. Let me see if I can pull it up on my... One minute. There we go. Didn't have the article up. Oh, my bad. The person who crashed into, but I found it. Person who crashed into a flatbed semi-truck in a apparent suicide attempt in Tennessee shot her family before the crash. This happened on the 18th in Dyer County, Tennessee. According to Memphis news. 60-year-old Sherry Darlene Leiden shot her husband William Leiden Jr. as he slept, then shot her 24-year-old son. Leiden then drove away from the scene and crashed into a flatbed semi-truck in an apparent suicide attempt. Leiden was taken to the hospital after the accident and passed from her injuries later that evening. Leiden's husband passed in the shooting and her son was seriously injured. Leiden had reportedly undergone surgery prior to the incident, which left her with night terrors, anxiety, and sleep disturbances. These factors were being considered as they continued to piece together the circumstances surrounding this tragic event, said the Dyer County Sheriff's Office. So she didn't die on impact, but she did pass away later on at the hospital, which is very sad. When you're going to have a procedure done, you're hoping that the turnout of the procedure will definitely go in your favor, and then all of a sudden you wake up with all these crazy side effects. Wonder why I don't want to go under the knife. Jeez. Anyway, here, check it out. There's your new Tesla that you're going to see running up and down the road, the electric truck. Isn't it a cute little day cab? Doesn't it remind you of the smart car? The little Chevy. Isn't it a Chevy smart car? Neat. So yeah, my son and I always do that from Jeff Dunham, and how he was driving his big, he says it one time on one of his skits, he's driving his big Hummer, and then all of a sudden the Hummer had to go into the shop, so then he had to drive the wife's car and its little Prius, and he's going down the highway going neat. So yeah, here we go. So new Tesla semi-truck, neat. A new Tesla electric semi-truck charging station is planned for Laredo, Texas, according to a permit filing. The station will be located near Fuel America Travel Center in Laredo. According to Laredo local news, the project will require a large amount of electrical infrastructure, and is expected to be completed by the end of this year, 2026. The charging station will cover 1,000 square feet and cost only $100,000. It is owned and designed by Tesla. This new station will mark the second Tesla charging station in Laredo. The first is located Calle del Norte Drive in Embassy Suites by Hilton parking lot. That location features 8 stalls with 150 kilowatts. So, but I don't know if that is a semi-truck charging station. So, the one that they already have by Embassy Suites. I don't know. That would be a good question to find that out. And Colorado was threatened with the loss of $24 million of federal funding for lack of urgency in revoking illegally issued CDLs. Colorado has become the latest state threatened with the loss of federal transportation funding over the handling of non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses. Let's see. It was Minnesota. I reported on, I think, last episode. Now it's Colorado, California. Imagine. All Democratic states. Imagine that. Wonder if Colorado a sanctuary state? Anybody know? If you know, leave it in the comments of the show if Colorado is a sanctuary state or not. On December 22nd, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said that Colorado could lose up to $24 million in federal highway funds if the state does not immediately revoke illegally issued CDLs. Duffy said that in October, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration nationwide audit showed that roughly 22% of Colorado's non-domiciled CDLs were issued illegally, and that, quote, many of these licenses were given to Mexican nationals, which is explicitly prohibited under federal regulations, end quote. From Duffy's statement, when pressed, Colorado admitted to these violations were not accidental, but the result of a 2016 statewide policy decision to disregard federal law and give trucking licenses to ineligible Mexican citizens. The state has also allowed non-domiciled CDL expiration dates to exceed the driver's lawful presence documents. In other words, their green card, effectively allowing individuals to drive trucks on American roadways long after their legal status to remain in the country has expired. In other words, they need to get the heck out, and they're still running around in a semi. Yeah, and you wonder why we have accidents mowing over 17, 25, 30 people, slamming into cars at a high rate of speed. Back to the article. Colorado doesn't get to pick and choose what federal rules it follows, especially when the driving public is at risk, said Duffy. It's been nearly 2 months since Colorado admitted that they knowingly broke the law and gave Mexican nationals trucking licenses. Colorado has 2 options: revoke the licenses immediately, or I'm going to pull the funding, he says. Every day that goes by is another day unqualified. Unvetted foreign truckers are jeopardizing the safety of everyone and their family. Late September, USDOT announced an emergency interim final rule to increase federal oversight of how states issue non-domiciled commercial learner's permits and CDLs. On the 10th of November, the Court of Appeals ordered an administrative stay on FMCSA emergency interim final rule after a lawsuit was filed challenging the legality of the rulemaking process. Yeah, of course they're going to challenge it. But anyways, and there again, they're only here for the voting. Remember, it was 2016. So they were only brought into this country to help sway the vote. But this show isn't political, it's about trucking. And the bill seeks to hold freight brokers accountable for contracting with unsafe trucking companies. A Michigan lawmaker introduced a bill that would create an economic incentive for freight brokers to work with safer trucking companies. Now, a lot of these stories, they're not funny. Let me break in here for just a quick second. They're not funny. I'm here in the next story. You're going to be watching video. In the next few stories, I'm going to have videos for that I'll be sharing for us to watch together. So just hold on, hold tight. Let me get through, because I talk about regulations. I talk about stupid stuff drivers do. I talk about missing persons. You know, I talk the gamut of things, not just one particular niche. It's all about the trucking industry and what goes on. So I appreciate you hanging with me this far. But hold on a little bit more and we'll be getting to the videos here in the next slide. Back to the article. On December 18th, U.S. Rep. John Molinar announced the introduction of the Patrick and Barbara Kowalski Freight Broker Safety Act. The bill would create a financial penalty for freight brokers that contract with trucking companies that have 3 or more Department of Transportation violations within a 5-year period. The penalty would amount to 10% of the value of the contracted cargo for the entire contract of such broker with the specified transportation company, trucking company. The monetary penalty would be placed in the Highway Trust Fund. The bill would also give the FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, more authority to investigate freight brokers and impose operating requirements following fatal crashes. Molinar said that the bill was written for Patrick and Barbara Kowalski, 2 lifelong Michiganders with ties to Michigan's 2nd Congressional District, who were killed in a trucking crash that involved a company with several Department of Transportation safety violations. No family, he says, should experience the loss the Kowalskis faced. It was a preventable tragedy, and this legislation ensures all freight industry contractors take safety seriously. All right. So, as promised, dash cam shows karma coming for impatient pickup driver trying to pass a semi-truck. Check it out. So he's trying to get over for him. Guy gets impatient. Gotta hit a turn lane. Up, bounces off the drives, cross the interstate, and into the weeds as they're coming into construction. And up next, a motorist dies after striking a parked truck hauling an oversized load. The Kansas Highway Patrol is looking for a commercial vehicle and a driver involved in a fatality crash in Seward County. Troopers say the crash occurred on U.S. Highway 54 near Liberal, Kansas, last week, December 22nd. According to the Kansas Highway Patrol, a commercial vehicle hauling an oversized load was parked on the eastbound shoulder of that highway near mile marker 20 when it was struck from the rear by an eastbound 2017 Chevy Silverado. The Chevy Silverado driver died as a result of the crash. Troopers say the truck left the scene after the crash. They were seeking a light-colored, possibly silver or gray truck. It was transporting an oversized load that included a large steel cylinder. And later on, upon looking up the story, they updated on the 24th that they did find the driver to that accident and for questioning and why was he parked there and this kind of thing. I don't believe any charges were filed against the semi driver at the time. I don't even know if he got it for leaving the scene, honestly. So here is Secretary Duffy. He calls on also California and Colorado governors to protect American citizens and stop slow walking non-domicile CDL enforcement. And I know I'm pounding this quite a lot, but you know, this is what's going on. Duffy called on governors of California and Washington to prioritize the safety of American citizens by enforcing the non-domicile CDLs. He appeared on Fox News to explain that the federal government is already in the process of withholding funds from California. They must give the state time to come into compliance, or I should say, but they must give the state. California says it will come into compliance, but Duffy says the federal government is not seeing that happen. He also accuses Colorado of slow walking the process. They're not pulling back licenses, Duffy said. These governors look out for the American people. Make sure you keep them safe. That is more important than putting an illegal who is not qualified behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound rig. Touché. It's very easy to just pull these licenses, and they're just slow walking it. They don't want to do it. They also don't want to lose their funding either. Good government would be saying, I'm going to keep my roads safe. I'm going to keep my people safe. You see governors who are on the side of the illegals instead of on the side of their citizens. He doesn't understand the liberal mindset where these governors would allow illegal aliens to operate 18-ton trucks. It's reckless. It puts American lives in danger. Try 40-ton, not 18. Your math is a little bit off there, honey. 2,000 pounds to a ton. And it's 80,000 pounds total, so that's 40 ton. I'm blonde, I can figure that out. But anyway, so yeah, he's not real happy. He's not a happy camper. And law enforcement in this story is to take part in a nationwide 5-day human trafficking initiative this month. Human Trafficking Awareness Initiative will take place here in this country between January 12th and the 16th. During this awareness initiative, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Administration partners with law enforcement to help educate commercial motor vehicle drivers, motor carriers, trucking companies, and the public about the crime of human trafficking. About time! Most of this stuff has been going on for decades, and you're first getting caught up to it now? Good Lord. Indicators to look for and what to do when a victim of human trafficking has been identified. As part of jurisdictions conduct human trafficking awareness and outreach efforts and report those activities to the Safety Alliance. In Canada, it'll take place February 23rd to the 27th, and in Mexico, March 16th to the 20th. A human trafficking prevention program which seeks to reduce human trafficking throughout North America through coordinated enforcement, investigation, and education. If you suspect someone that is in a human trafficking situation or you're the victim of human trafficking in the U.S., write this down. You could call this number. I'll also have these numbers on the announcement page of my website at JuliasTruckingCafe.com. In the U.S., call 888-373-7888. That's 888-373-7888. Canada, you could call 833-900-1010. That's 833-900-1010. In Mexico, you could call 800-5533-000. So, again, I will have these numbers posted on my announcements page on my website. I try to have, again, if you're new to the show, I try to have my website, JuliasTruckingCafe.com, as a one-stop shop for anything, any kind of legislation or missing people or anything like that. This kind of numbers or whatever. Human trafficking is going on. Trafficking of little kids is going on. It does happen, people. Keep an eye on your children. Keep an eye on your grandkids. I just seen the other day, I live in a small town in North Mississippi. I just seen a little Spanish boy scared to death because he lost his mama at Walmart. Luckily, one of the older ladies that spoke Spanish, was able to comfort him and wait there while they made an announcement over the PA system, and Mom finally came to customer service, and I witnessed this. It wasn't just a story. I witnessed this myself. And the mom finally came and was able to, calm down the little boy, but poor kid was scared to death that he was lost, and, Mom could have left them or what have you. So it just, you just don't know. And it's so easy for kids to be snatched. I have a 3-year-old grandson, and I do worry, but because they in that age they like to run off. They like to, they see something, they are not thinking, they take off, and no matter how much you correct them, it's still just can't do that, But anyway, I digress. And Idaho troopers step up enforcement of load securement and overweight commercial vehicles following citizen complaints. The Idaho State Police recently conducted a focused enforced operation in Boise area in response to a growing number of public complaints about sand and gravel trucks in the Treasure Valley. This happened on the 23rd. After motorists reported concern about potential load loss and overweight vehicles, particularly between the Orchard exit off of I-84 and the Orchard-Gowan Loop south of the airport. They focused on the following during that detail: securing loads to prevent debris from falling onto the roadway, weight and equipment compliance, driver qualifications and commercial documentation, moving violations, seat belt and cell phone use, and other risks to other motorists. They said the truck drivers should expect increased enforcement to continue. They will continue when complaints, traffic patterns, commercial vehicle data, and public safety concerns show it's needed. Commercial haulers should expect continued vehicle and load inspections, said the state troopers. And commercial vehicle inspection operation at Texas Motor Speedway yields 147 warnings. Now look real closely at that picture. Anything missing? that you can see? That is a slack adjuster for the brakes. What's missing? Slack adjuster, see the two pieces on the bottom? They squeeze in and out. You see that big gap between, you see where the rim of the tire is, and then the next thing up, that's what's the brake drum. Then the next thing into that has the big gap from the drum, those are the shoes. And just underneath, that little deal hanging down, that's not supposed to be that big of a gap in there. So those brakes aren't even working. So what's missing? Test question. What's missing? The Department of Public Safety in Texas issued nearly 147 warnings during commercial vehicle inspection in Fort Worth. That's where they have their new DOT out. On December 22nd, North Texas Region reported results from a commercial vehicle inspection operation that took place at the Texas Motor Speedway. 22 commercial vehicles were inspected. 13 vehicles were put out of service, meaning they couldn't operate anymore. 3 drivers were put out of service. They couldn't drive anymore. And 147 warnings were issued. And 3 tickets were issued. During the operation, troopers located a loaded semi operating without functioning trailer brakes, such as the picture. The highlights critical role troopers play in identifying unsafe drivers and equipment, therefore helping to prevent the crash and keeping the Texas roadways safe. They always say that. That's why I'm trying to be funny. They always say that. And this man is facing charges for a North Carolina bank robbery and a semi-truck shootout. A man is facing felony charges after allegedly robbing a bank, fleeing in a semi-truck, and engaging police in a shootout. Mr. McGee, no pun intended, Jr. has been charged with bank robbery, discharging a firearm, in furtherance of a crime of violence, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for North Carolina. Authorities allege that the day after Christmas, on the 26th, McGee robbed the First Citizens Bank in Zebulon, North Carolina, of $3,234 in cash by threatening tellers with the exploding C4. That's what he has in his hand. And then fled the scene. Officers responded to the bank and began investigating the robbery. Surveillance footage depicted McGee leaving the scene in a semi-truck. Later that day, Rocky Mount Police located that truck in a Hobby Lobby parking lot in Rocky Mount. Police officers were surveilling the truck when McGee exited it, armed with a Ruger AR 5.56 rifle. It's not an AR-15, but it was a rifle. McGee immediately began firing at the officers. They returned fire and struck McGee. While taking McGee into custody, officers recovered the AR rifle he used to shoot at him and a handgun from his waistband. Police reportedly found several items worn by or used by McGee during the robbery inside the semi. No police officers or members of the public were injured. Bomb technicians responded to the scene to confirm that there were no explosives present. If convicted, McGee faces up to 20 years in prison on the bank robbery charge and a mandatory minimum 10 years in prison consecutive to any other sentence on discharging a firearm. What about assault on an officer? As alleged, this defendant didn't just rob a bank, he threatened innocent civilians with explosives, then opened fire on officers. That is not desperation, that is domestic terror. Thanks to the extraordinary courage and professionalism of our law enforcement partners, he is alive in custody. Yeah, and he's getting 3 squares on a cot. If you bring violence in our communities and target the men and women who protect them, the Department of Justice will meet you with the full weight of the federal government and ensure you are removed from the streets for a very long time. When the bad guys shoot at our law enforcement partners, we will aggressively pursue federal charges against them. Which they should. So, but yeah, they're not talking about the C4. You can't see my hand, but the C4 that he has in his hand, that little black thing, that's what he was saying. He had C4 in there. And don't you love Don't you love his get up? It's a black hoodie with a black t-shirt and like sunglasses and a ski mask. Yeah, can't be identified by that, can you? I think it's kind of comical. And Ohio troopers shared a video. Here's one of my other videos I'm going to show you of a bobtail truck and a pickup truck careening off of a slippery I-71 bridge. Ohio State Patrol shared a body cam video of a semi-truck driver and a pickup truck driver losing control at the same time on an icy interstate overpass in Mansfield, Ohio. And you need to slow down. So let's watch.
You got your ID on you?
There he goes.
Yeah, so semi rollover 31A. Gonna see you messing around.
Wait for it. Wait for it. And there comes the pickup truck. Exact same spot.
I almost got hit by a truck. Another 31.
Oh, wait, did you advise you were struck?
So now the officer's going down to check on people.
Are you all right, sir?
She may be a little bit jarred. I feel okay.
Okay.
All indications is that we're all right.
But doesn't check on the driver. Really? Doesn't check on the semi-driver. I'm like, wow. In this story, a semi-truck's trip through the weigh station turns up 680 pounds of illegal marijuana. The Arkansas Highway Patrol reported the seizure of nearly 700 pounds of drugs from a commercial vehicle passing through a weigh station last month. This happened December 20th, week and a half ago. Conducted a routine federal safety inspection at the Alma Way Station off of I-40. During the inspection, 680 pounds of illegal marijuana was discovered and seized from the cargo area of a commercial box truck. It did not provide information on whether the driver was arrested or what charges might have been filed, according to this article. And the next story. This truck driver spent Christmas Eve stuck in a snowstorm after ignoring signs and following his GPS. Well, guess what? What do I say to that, people? If you've watched my show any length of time, what do I say to something like this? I don't feel sorry for him. You're going to ignore signs. Doesn't say if he understood English, but followed his GPS. And yeah, California Highway Patrol out in California. They assisted a semi-truck driver, suckers, who became stuck on a closed road in Sierra County on Christmas Eve. He responded to a closed road in a very rural area of Sierra County to assist a semi-truck driver who chose to ignore the signs and follow his GPS during a snowstorm instead of parking it. He said the driver was fortunate to have warm clothes, food, water, plenty of fuel, and help was on their way. They offered the following advice for drivers to help them avoid getting stuck in this kind of weather. Do not try to attempt to bypass chain control by using side roads. So county roads, this kind of thing, because those are plowed last. Stick to the interstates. Those are plowed first. County roads, state roads are plowed next. County roads are plowed last. Do not ignore road closed signs. If your GPS appears to be routing you incorrectly, trust your gut and going, yeah, no. And if it gets that doggone bad where you can't see, park it. Find a wide spot someplace and just park it. Take a nap. And by the time you wake up, it'll probably have blown over. or at least be daylight. So, rules of the road for winter driving conditions. Just don't be stupid. Like the song says. Here's somebody else being really stupid right here. Missouri troopers share dash cam video from wild Christmas Day semi-truck pursuit. Let's read the backstory about it. They captured on December 20, right on Christmas Day in multiple Missouri counties. A pursuit began when an operator of a semi failed to stop for officers. He sped through towns, crossed into oncoming traffic, struck multiple vehicles, even on multiple flat tires, and he kept on going until the chase ended in Hannibal. The driver involved in the pursuit was later identified as a California resident, Francisco Portiolo, 42, who was booked into the county jail. So let's watch this video.
Contact.
Now they're throwing down spike strips. And
150, good spikes on the right side. Good spikes right side.
We are passing one there. You should 1050 with the vehicle. 1050, 1050.
Just obliterating the car.
There are stop sticks on the other road. I just hit one.
And as you see here, it turned around and took out that's a steer tire. You see it's all the way back below the door. Now they whited out what the company name was, but yeah. So that's Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour for this week, episode 156. If you don't know, you don't want to watch the whole hour-long episode, I've been clipping each article down into short clips, so you could go ahead and just watch the minute or two clip of every article. I also have been getting a lot of good feedback on my little shorts, about 15-second shorts that I'm doing for every article. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can enjoy the show. I also have a new sponsor, Blackout Coffee. I will be inserting advertisements and you will get 25% off starting next week. I have my own link, so you could get up to 25% off using my link, or 20% off discount of any kind of merchandise or anything like that in the store. So they have cups, they have... What I like about Blackout Coffee is that American-owned, American-operated, small batches. They grind your coffee. If you're going to do ground, they have Keurig pods. Individual pods, they call them. They don't want to use Keurig name, but I call them Keurig pods. They have whole bean. As soon as it's ground and bagged, it's sent out within 24 to 48 hours to you. You have a monthly coffee club you can do. They have flavored coffees. They have merch, cups, and, of course, T-shirts, and steel coffee cups like you use for camping. Now, was it steel or stainless steel? You know, those the metal regular coffee cups that you would use like if you were camping. All kinds of stuff. So starting next week, I'll have in the description, a link where you could save, click on my link to get your Blackout Coffee. They also, for every 1 pound bag of Blackout Coffee that you purchase, they also send 2 cups of coffee to service members. And you can also, they have a way, I will share that as well, where you can donate coffee to service members that are soldiers that are deployed overseas. So they also provide coffee to them. I think it's a really good sponsor, and I'm so happy that they came on board with us and Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. So I look forward to sharing everything with you. Take care, have a great week, and we'll see you next week, Thursday, 7 p.m.